The neon signs of Outpost Meridian cast prismatic shadows across the crowded marketplace, their glow reflecting off the crystalline architecture that characterized celestial engineering. James Harrison adjusted his environmental suit settings, compensating for the station's higher oxygen levels, a concession to its predominantly non-human population. 5 years of trading rare minerals across the outer rim had hardened him, leaving little trace of the wide-eyed pilot who'd first ventured beyond Earth's solar system. His weathered face and the faint scar along his jaw told stories of close calls and hard-won deals, but none compared to the shock that awaited him in Docking Bay 17. The customs officer, a towering Arcturian with iridescent scales, barely glanced at his credentials. Purpose of visit? Standard resupply and trade, James replied, fighting the urge to scratch at the newly healed tissue where his neural translator had been upgraded. Got a hold full of tritanium that's burning a hole in my pocket. The Arcturian's secondary eyes narrowed. Tritanium's restricted in this sector. Not anymore. James produced a holocube displaying his updated permits. New trade agreement with the Celestial Confluence. Went into effect last lunar cycle. As the officer reviewed his documentation, James's attention drifted to a commotion near the luxury vessel berths. A group of merchants had gathered around something, or someone, he couldn't quite see. Then the crowd parted, and his heart stopped. Solaris stood there, her crystalline form catching the light in ways that still took his breath away. Her core pulsed with the same azure energy he remembered, but now there was something different about her resonance pattern. Something familiar yet foreign. She sensed him before she saw him. Celestials always could read human energy signatures from across a room, it was one of the things that had initially drawn their species together. Her form shifted, the crystalline plates that served as her external structure rearranging themselves in what he recognized as surprise, then something closer to shock. James Harrison. Her voice carried the same melodic overtones that had once filled his dreams. Of all the outposts in all the sectors, you dare show your face in mine? The crowd began to disperse, sensing the crackle of energy that preceded celestial emotional displays. James took a step forward, hands raised in a universal gesture of peace. Solaris, I can explain dash. Explain? The word shimmered with harmonic undertones of fury and something else, pain. Explain why you disappeared into the outer rim without a word? Explain why you blocked all quantum communications? Or perhaps you'd like to explain why you never bothered to check if our final night together had consequences? James felt the blood drain from his face. Consequences? Solaris's core flashed brilliant white, a sign of intense emotion among her kind. Come with me. There's someone you need to meet. She led him through the station's winding corridors, past shops selling wares from 100 worlds, until they reached a quieter section reserved for permanent residents. Outside a door marked with both celestial glyphs and human numerals, she paused. Before we go in, you need to understand something. What happened between us, what we created, it wasn't supposed to be possible. Human and celestial genetics were never meant to combine. But they did, James. They did. The door slid open, revealing a small living quarter decorated with an odd mixture of human and celestial artifacts. And there, floating near a window that looked out into the star-filled void, was a child. She appeared to be about 4 years old, with skin that shifted between human flesh tones and crystalline transparency. Her hair consisted of delicate energy filaments that danced like aurora borealis, and when she turned to look at him, her eyes held the depth of space itself. Daddy? The word came out in both spoken English and celestial harmonics simultaneously. Mommy said you were exploring the stars. Did you bring me any? James Harrison, veteran of a dozen space battles and survivor of the Rigel run, felt tears roll down his cheeks as he realized that his greatest adventure was just beginning. 24 hours changed everything. James sat in Solaris's kitchen unit, watching his daughter, Aurora, manipulate quantum fields as easily as human children played with building blocks. She had created a miniature galaxy in the air between them, complete with swirling nebulae and tiny pinpricks of light that perfectly mimicked real stars. "The doctors can't explain it," Solaris said, her crystalline form shifting in what James had learned was anxiety. "Her DNA is completely stable, a perfect fusion of human adaptability and celestial energy manipulation. But her abilities, they go beyond either of our species." Aurora giggled as she added a supernova to her creation, the tiny explosion sending sparkles of real energy dancing through the air. James reached out to touch one and felt a slight tingle in his fingers. When did her powers first manifest? 2 years ago. She was upset about not being able to reach a toy. Instead of crying like a human child or resonating like a celestial, she simply altered reality. The toy floated right into her hands. Solaris's core pulsed with maternal pride tinged with worry. That's when the others started taking notice. James straightened in his chair. What others? The Galactic Science Council at first. They wanted to study her. The way Solaris said study made it clear what that really meant. Then the military attaches started showing up. Representatives from a dozen species, all suddenly very interested in our little outpost. "Why didn't you contact me?" The words came out harsher than he intended. "I tried." Solaris's form crystallized slightly, her version of a bitter laugh. "Every quantum frequency we'd ever used. But you were gone, James. Lost in the rim. Running from what we had." He couldn't deny it. After their last night together, the intensity of their connection had terrified him. Humans weren't supposed to feel that deeply, to resonate with another being on such a fundamental level. So he'd run, taking increasingly dangerous trading routes that kept him just ahead of his memories. A small hand touched his arm. "Don't be sad, Daddy. Look what I can do." Aurora closed her eyes in concentration, and suddenly the kitchen unit was filled with butterflies made of pure energy, their wings trailing stardust as they fluttered around the room. One landed on James's nose, and he felt a surge of pure joy that wasn't entirely his own. "She's empathic too," Solaris explained. "Another trait that neither of our species possesses. She doesn't just manipulate energy, she connects with it. With everything." The implications hit James like a meteor strike. A child with the ability to manipulate reality itself, to connect with the fundamental forces of the universe. No wonder various powers were interested. In the wrong hands, Aurora could become the most powerful weapon the galaxy had ever seen. But looking at her now, creating beauty from pure energy, all James could see was his daughter. A warning chime from the station's AI interrupted his thoughts. "Attention residents. Unscheduled vessel approaching. Security protocols activated." Solaris's form shifted to alert status, her crystalline surface hardening. "They're early. We need to move." "Who's early?" James was already reaching for the compact pulse pistol he always carried. "The consortium. They've been watching, waiting. Now that you're here." She began quickly gathering essential items. "They think they have a complete set. Human father, celestial mother, hybrid child. They want to study us, replicate what we did. Like hell they will." James's trader instincts kicked in, assessing exits, resources, potential allies. "My ship's in Bay 17. Modified stellar-class runner. Fast enough to outrun anything they've got." "We can't run forever, James." "No," he agreed, watching Aurora dissolve her energy butterflies with a wave of her small hand. "But we can run long enough to figure out something better." He knelt down to his daughter's level. "Hey Starshine, how do you feel about seeing Daddy's spaceship?" Aurora's eyes lit up, literally, glowing with internal starlight. "Can I make it pretty? Like Mommy?" You can make it however you want, but first we need to play a game. It's called Very Quiet Escape. Think you can do that? She nodded solemnly, already picking up on the tension in the room. James felt another surge of foreign emotion, not fear, but determination. His daughter might look partly human, but there was nothing ordinary about her. The station's warning chime sounded again, more urgent this time. Through the viewport, James could see a massive vessel dropping out of quantum space, sleek, black, and bristling with sensors. The kind of ship that belonged to people who didn't take no for an answer. Time to go, he said, taking Aurora in his arms while Solaris gathered the last of their essential items. Ready for an adventure? Aurora wrapped her arms around his neck, her touch sending tingles of energy through his body. Will there be stars, Daddy? James met Solaris's glowing gaze over their daughter's head. More than you can count, starshine. More than you can count. The chase began in quantum space, where normal rules of physics bent like light through a prism. James's ship, the Starcaller, pushed its modified engines to their limits while Aurora watched the quantum streams with fascination from her mother's lap. The colors are singing, Mommy, she whispered, reaching out toward the viewport where reality itself twisted into impossible shapes. Solaris held her daughter closer, her crystalline form resonating in harmony with the quantum fields. Yes, little one. That's the universe's heartbeat. James checked their pursuit vectors for the third time in as many minutes. The consortium's ship was falling behind, but two more had joined the chase. They really want us badly, he muttered, making another course correction. It's not just about Aurora anymore, Solaris said, her voice carrying harmonics of concern. Think about it, James. We proved it's possible, human and celestial union creating viable offspring. Do you know how many species in the galaxy are considered incompatible? How many wars have been fought over genetic superiority? The implications hit him like a gravity wave. Aurora wasn't just their miracle, she was proof that the boundaries between species might be more permeable than anyone had imagined. In the wrong hands, such knowledge could spark a genetic arms race across the galaxy. A warning light flashed on his console. They're trying to lock on with a quantum tether, James announced, initiating evasive maneuvers. Hold on. The Starcaller dove through layers of quantum space, its hull groaning under the strain. Aurora, instead of being frightened, reached out toward the controls. Before either parent could stop her, streams of energy flowed from her fingers into the ship's systems. Aurora, no! Solaris cried, but it was too late. The ship's quantum drive surged with impossible power. James watched in amazement as new readings appeared on his displays, energy patterns he'd never seen before. The pursuing ships fell away like leaves in a solar wind as the Starcaller accelerated beyond normal quantum speeds. What did she do? James asked, struggling to make sense of the readings. She's interfacing with the ship, Solaris explained, her form flickering with a mixture of pride and concern. Combining human technology with celestial energy manipulation. She's improving it. Aurora giggled. The ship was sad because it couldn't go fast enough. I made it happy. James exchanged a look with Solaris. Their daughter hadn't just modified the ship, she'd somehow given it a form of consciousness, merging mechanical systems with energy fields in ways that shouldn't be possible. The moment of wonder was interrupted by a new alarm. Multiple quantum signatures ahead, James reported. They're trying to box us in. Let them try, Solaris said, her crystalline surface hardening with determination. She placed her hands on the ship's walls, and James felt the familiar tingle of celestial energy flowing through the hull. Aurora, sweetie, would you like to help Mommy and Daddy do something amazing? Their daughter's eyes lit up with literal starlight. Yes. What happened next would be talked about in space ports across 3 sectors. Witnesses would describe seeing a small trading vessel suddenly transform, its hull taking on the crystalline properties of a celestial while maintaining its human-engineered structure. Energy patterns never before recorded rippled across its surface as it phased through the waiting consortium blockade like light through glass. Inside the ship, James watched in awe as his daughter and Solaris worked in perfect harmony, their combined powers turning the Starcaller into something entirely new, a hybrid, like Aurora herself. He felt the ship respond to his controls with newfound intelligence and grace, as if it had evolved beyond its original design. The quantum drive is fully integrated with celestial energy matrices, Solaris reported, her voice tight with concentration. We can maintain this state for approximately 20 minutes before molecular cohesion becomes unstable. That's all we need, James said, plotting a course for the one place he knew they might find sanctuary. Aurora, honey, you're doing great. Just hold on a little longer. Their daughter nodded, her energy filament hair swirling with colors James had never seen before. The pursuing ships grew smaller on their displays as the Starcaller cut through quantum space like a dream through the night. But even as they pulled away from immediate danger, James knew this was just the beginning. The consortium wouldn't give up easily, and news of what they'd done to the ship would spread. Their family had just proved once again that the impossible was possible when human determination met celestial power. As if reading his thoughts, Solaris reached out with her free hand and touched his shoulder. The familiar resonance between them felt stronger than ever, enriched by the presence of their extraordinary daughter. "Where are we going, Daddy?" Aurora asked, her voice carrying harmonics of both excitement and fatigue. "To find some friends, Starshine," he replied, thinking of the hidden station where he'd made connections during his trading days, a place where species from across the galaxy gathered to exchange not just goods, but ideas. Some very special friends who understand that the best things in life don't always follow the rules. The hidden station known as Haven floated in the space between systems, its existence marked on no official charts. To the casual observer, it appeared to be nothing more than a collection of abandoned mining platforms and derelict ships. But James knew better. As the transformed Starcaller approached, layers of holographic camouflage peeled away revealing a thriving sanctuary. Ships of various designs and origins nestled among the interconnected structures, their crews representing species from across known space. "Welcome to Haven," James announced as Aurora pressed her face against the viewport, watching the station's true form emerge. "Home to everyone who doesn't fit anywhere else." A familiar voice crackled over their comm system. "Starcaller, you're radiating some very interesting energy signatures. Care to explain why your ship appears to be having an identity crisis?" "Ventrix," James smiled, recognizing the voice of Haven's security chief, a retired quantum physicist turned refugee coordinator. "We could use some help and a safe berth." "We?" The question carried layers of meaning. James glanced at Solaris, who nodded. "I'd like you to meet my family." There was a long pause before Ventrix responded. "Bring her in slow, docking bay 9. And James, the Council will want to see this." The Council of Haven turned out to be unlike any governing body in the galaxy. Gathered around the circular chamber were representatives of dozens of species, many of whom were considered incompatible or even hostile to each other in the outside world. Yet here they sat together, united by their shared status as exceptions to the rules. Aurora stood between her parents, seemingly unfazed by the varied beings studying her. Her energy filament hair shifted through colors that matched each council member's natural bioluminescence as she made eye contact with them, an unconscious display of her unique abilities. "Extraordinary," breathed Nexus, a being of pure quantum probability who served as lead researcher. "The genetic barriers between humans and celestials should make this impossible. Yet here she stands, living proof that our understanding of compatibility is fundamentally flawed. Which is precisely why the consortium hunts them," Ventrix added, their multifaceted eyes reflecting the station's lights. "Think of the implications. If a human and a celestial can produce viable offspring with enhanced abilities, what other combinations might be possible. They'll never stop looking for us, Solaris said, her crystalline form shifting with concern. And Aurora's powers are still growing. What she did to the ship, that was just the beginning. As if to demonstrate, Aurora raised her small hand, creating a miniature holographic display of Haven. But this wasn't just a visual representation. James could feel energy patterns shifting as his daughter somehow tapped into the station's systems, understanding their complexity at a level that should have been impossible for a child her age. She doesn't just break the rules of genetics, James explained, watching his daughter manipulate the station's holographic blueprint with intuitive ease. She breaks the rules of what we think is possible. Human adaptability combined with celestial energy manipulation, plus something entirely new. The council members murmured among themselves, communications ranging from verbal speech to quantum resonance to chemical signals. Finally, the council leader, a being so ancient their original species was unknown, spoke. Haven exists to protect those who demonstrate that the boundaries between species are more fluid than the galaxy believes. Your daughter represents everything we stand for. The leader's form shifted, revealing patterns that resembled both human DNA and celestial energy matrices. We offer you sanctuary, but more than that, we offer you purpose. Purpose? Solaris asked, her core pulsing with curiosity. For too long, the galaxy has been divided by artificial boundaries. Species declaring themselves superior or incompatible based on ancient prejudices. But here, in secret, we have been gathering evidence that these boundaries are illusions. The leader gestured to the assembled council. Many of us are the results of cross-species relationships that were thought impossible. Others have evolved beyond their original forms through choice or circumstance. We are the future the consortium fears. James felt a tingle of energy and looked down to find Aurora creating bridges of pure light between council members, connecting their energy signatures in harmonious patterns. The assembled beings watched in wonder as their usually disparate energy fields synchronized through the child's innocent play. They're all singing together now, Aurora announced happily, adding more connections to her growing network of light. Like a big family. The council leader's ancient eyes sparkled. Indeed, little one. And perhaps that is exactly what the galaxy needs to see, not a weapon to be feared, but a bridge between all sentient beings. A proof that love and understanding can transcend the very barriers of reality itself. 3 months after finding sanctuary on Haven, James stood at a viewport watching ships arrive from across the galaxy. Each vessel carried beings who, like his family, represented the impossible, hybrid couples, evolved individuals, and those who had transcended the traditional boundaries between species. The consortium had finally found Haven, but not in the way they'd expected. Instead of an invasion fleet, they faced a diplomatic delegation. Aurora had changed everything. Daddy. His daughter's voice pulled him from his thoughts. Look what we made. James turned to find Aurora standing with a group of hybrid children, her new friends on Haven. Together, they had created something extraordinary, a miniature galaxy that floated between them, but unlike her previous energy constructs, this one felt somehow more real. It's beautiful, Starshine, he said, kneeling beside them. What is it? The future, she replied with the simple wisdom of a child. Where everyone can sing together. Solaris appeared beside them, her crystalline form glowing with maternal pride. She's not just creating an illusion, she explained. She and the other children are actually manipulating quantum probability fields. They're showing us possibilities, real ones. The implications made James's head spin. Their daughter wasn't just bridging the gap between humans and celestials, she was helping to create a new way of seeing reality itself. The station's communication system chimed softly. The consortium representatives have arrived, Ventrix announced. Along with delegations from 27 major species. Are you ready? James asked his family. Aurora took both their hands, her human father's warm flesh and her celestial mother's crystalline energy field, perfectly comfortable with both. Ready. The diplomatic chamber of Haven had been transformed. Where once a secret council met in shadows, now representatives from across known space gathered in the open. The consortium's delegation, led by beings James once feared, now showed signs of uncertainty as they faced not just one hybrid child, but an entire station of living proof that their beliefs about genetic purity were wrong. Aurora stepped forward, still holding her parents' hands. Around the chamber, other families did the same, quantum beings with silicon-based life forms, energy creatures with organic partners, and combinations that defied traditional classification. Each pair had produced children who, like Aurora, exhibited abilities that went beyond either parent species. Welcome to Haven, the council leader began, where the future of all species has been growing in secret. You came seeking weapons and instead found wonders. You sought to control evolution, but it has already moved beyond your grasp. As if orchestrated, the hybrid children around the chamber began to create energy patterns that connected everyone present. James felt it, a harmonic resonance that transcended species barriers, allowing each being to experience a fragment of how the others perceived reality. The consortium's lead representative, a being of pure energy contained within an ancient mechanical shell, spoke first. This is unprecedented. The implications for galactic society are exactly why we hid, Solaris finished. Until now. But our daughter helped us understand something important: fear of the unknown is less powerful than hope for the possible. Aurora released her parents' hands and walked to the center of the chamber. The energy patterns around her shifted, and suddenly everyone present could see through her eyes, could understand how she perceived the artificial boundaries between species dissolving, could feel the potential for connection that existed in every atom of space. The galaxy is changing, James addressed the gathered delegates. Not through war or genetic engineering, but through love and understanding. Our children aren't weapons to be controlled or accidents to be prevented. They're doorways to a future where diversity makes us stronger. The chamber erupted in discussion, but it wasn't fearful or hostile. The energy patterns Aurora and the other children maintained created a foundation for genuine understanding across species barriers that had existed for millennia. Later, as the formal negotiations for Haven's recognition as an autonomous zone began, James found his family on their favorite observation deck. Aurora sat between them, creating small constellations of possibility in the air. "Did we do the right thing?" he asked Solaris. "Revealing ourselves to the galaxy?" She reached across their daughter to take his hand, her crystalline form resonating with the same frequency that had first drawn them together. "Look at her, James. Look at all of them. We didn't just create a child, we helped create hope." Aurora added another star to her collection, this one burning with a light that combined human determination and celestial energy in ways that should have been impossible. But then, impossible things happened every day on Haven now. The old stories were wrong, Aurora said suddenly, her voice carrying harmonics that touched both her human and celestial heritage. "The stars don't divide us. They show us the way home." James watched as his daughter's latest creation float upward to join the real stars visible through the viewport. Out there, the galaxy was changing, boundaries were dissolving, and new possibilities were being born every moment. And it all started because two people from incompatible species dared to fall in love. "Home," he repeated, holding his family close as Haven's light joined the stellar dance above. "We're all finding our way home."